Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. There are basic lines of human decency, norms to which society generally agrees and to which we adhere, and we continue to see the Trump presidency eroding these lines. Some of the people marching alongside Nazis in the Klan in Charlottesville were, quote, very fine people, President Trump said, as he drew a line of moral equivalence between white supremacists and those who protested the white supremacists, days after one of those Nazis drove purposefully into a crowd and killed Heather Heyer. Or last fall, after U.S. Senate candidate Roy Moore was credibly accused by women of having sexually abused them when they were in high school, one of the victims as young as 14. Republicans withdrew their support for Roy Moore except for President Trump, who doubled down. To this list of those marching alongside Nazis and those accused of sexually abusing children, the White House has now added someone accused by two ex-wives of spousal abuse. CNN's Caitlin Collins reports that White House officials have been generally aware of the accusations that White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter has beaten his ex-wives. Today, the White House is still standing by Porter, attesting to his character and his excellence. Before we begin today's report, I just wanted to once again note a further erosion of standards for what I thought we'd all agreed was not okay, not acceptable, not moral. Supremacist rallies, child molesters, domestic abusers, another moment where the White House is sadly no longer considered a place of the highest standards in the land, but rather a place where our national standards are being degraded. This afternoon, White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter resigned over the objections of the White House, following reports of spousal abuse claims by two ex-wives, Colby Holderness and Jennifer Willoughby, who told CNN's MJ Lee that Porter abused them while they were married to him. One of those ex-wives has photographic evidence, she says, proves her claim, a black eye. Both of these women shared their claims in interviews with the FBI during Porter's background check investigation. Minutes ago, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders continued to stand by Porter, saying that President Trump has, quote, full confidence in his abilities and performance. Earlier, Sanders said Porter was not pressured to resign. In fact, far from it.
Look, I think that was a personal decision that Rob made, and one that he was not pressured to do, but one that he made on his own.
Porter, in a statement today, called the charges against him by his two ex-wives false and vile, but he did not explain how his ex-wife got the black eye or why two ex-wives are accusing him of abusing them.
It is Thursday, the 8th of February of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Our daily special is Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, a little spicy jambalaya. We're going to shake it up because there's a whole lot of shaking going on. You know, there is always more news than we can attend to. It's just a deluge of it. And I have to tell you, it seems quite strategic. It doesn't seem as if it's just happenstance. And we are here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy to curate a cornucopia of abundance for all of us, because we want to put meaning and order to this chaotic universe. Okay, Hope Hicks. She's in the news, and she's 30 years old. I don't think that she is without agency. I do believe that her moral code, her moral construct, was developed a while ago. So, where it was forged, how it was forged, I think we are just seeing the results of its fruition. She seems to like get involved with the wrong boyfriends. Apparently, this guy Rob Porter is her new boyfriend, reportedly. Wife beater. And she reportedly had been going out with Scaramucci, the mooch. And reports about him having a bit of an anger issue. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. It sounds salacious. And it even sounds to a certain degree. Now, I don't want to diminish or negate the importance of addressing domestic violence. But the Hope Hicks story in it seems like a bit of a distraction, a diversion from what the hell is really going on. And what is that? Well, the Russians hacked into our election, hacked into our voting rolls. Of course, I'm shocked, as if that was never considered as a possibility before, because reports were that they had, and now I guess they're more than just reports. And what is even more shocking, or not, is that the Russians continue in these measures right at this very moment. And we have we have these midterms coming up. And you know, look, we've got a blue wave going on, right? You know that when the Democrats win, and they win in overwhelming majorities and flipping red districts here and there, you know what's going to happen. Oh, yeah. All of those elections will be negated, and every single one of those Democrats will be made to step down from office. And why? Because the Russians helped them. And even if the Russians didn't help them, just by dint of the fact that the Russians helped the Republicans, well, look, now it's the Democrats. And certainly people should go to jail for that. Because when a Democrat is accused of it, they will be made to suffer. That's a terrible prediction, but I feel it coming. There is nothing being done that, well, I think that our rank and file in our intelligence and law enforcement agencies at the upper levels, of course, upper levels being federal and international, they are working diligently. But, the public face, our politicians, our leaders, they are doing nothing about this Russian involvement in our electoral process. And I'm telling you, when the Democrats win these offices, everything is going to be subject to scrutiny. And if there is even a hint of Russian help, it won't be like it is now. Oh, no. We will have show trials, and there will be people going to jail, publicly frog-marched to prison. Okay, isn't that a nice way to wake up and start your day at Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? What are we attending to today as part of our curated menu? Well, I will tell you, the Department of Justice shut down a Ukrainian-launched cybercrime ring that caused more than $530 million in losses. Mm-hmm. New York architect Vijay Duggal is threatening to sue Trump for stealing his solar border wall idea. Say that real fast. Solar border wall idea. And Republican lawmakers in Pennsylvania and North Carolina are now resorting to desperate judicial branch coups. They're taking over, folks, indeed. After the break, we'll move to the chef's table to reveal that Russian trolls used Tumblr to undermine Clinton as far back as 2015. But the company is staying mum about that. And why wouldn't they? And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lashes out as police investigators are set to charge him with bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust. Mirrors of things to come? We can only hope and pray. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Go to netrootsradio.com, you'll find that is our homepage, and it has been worked on, updated here just recently. Thank you, Tom. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll notice the chat room link way over on the right side of the page, and then on the left side of the page are the donate contribute buttons. And thank you for your generosity. We are paying our bills, and they want us to do that, and we've agreed to it. So we just, unlike the President of the United States, we fulfill our contractual obligations without complaint. Jeez. As an aside, I just hate it when all these anti-tax people, and I got to tell you, it's mostly on the right wing. What a bunch of whiners. They just whine all the time about paying their bills. Whine that I got to pay this bill. Whine that I got to pay that bill. Whine, whine, whine. Just pay your bills. I don't want to hear you whining anymore. Everybody's got to pay bills. Do I have to hear you whining about it? It's tough enough that I have to pay my bills. And that Netroots Radio has to pay their bills. It's tough enough. I don't have to be reminded about you and your stupid tax bill and what an affront it is to everyone's sensibilities that you have to pay a bill. Pay your bill. And that's the other thing that used to bug me when I was working in the trades. I didn't like going and renegotiating for a higher fee because of some mistake I made along the way. And I also hated it when I went and finished the job and they wanted to renegotiate the contract. I hated that. Ugh. I didn't like doing it. And I got to tell you, sometimes you might make a little bit of a mistake on materials on how much things cost. And you want to get those materials paid. But you have a contract signed. And the contract doesn't stipulate maybe that 25% overage. Oops. That buffer that you need. I didn't go. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be comparing the world to my behaviors and actions. But I thought it was, you don't go in and renegotiate a contract. You got a contract. You fulfill that contract. You got another job. You make it up on the next job. But we live in different times where the way to be a success is to cheat and screw as many people as possible. That's the only measure of success, apparently, in our new a-go-go society. Speaking of a-go-go society, I don't know if this is about greed or what. I think there's a lot of greed involved here. But it also works as an active measure as well. And we'll see how that works. This is out of Reuters by Sarah Lynch and Doina Chiku. The U.S. Justice Department announced one of its largest ever takedowns of a global cybercrime ring, saying it had indicted 36 people accused of trafficking in stolen identities and causing more than $530 million in losses to customers. or consumers, depending on how you read that, because you're just glancing at it. Oops. The cybercrime network, operating as an online discussion forum known as Infraud, ran a sophisticated scheme that facilitated the purchase and sale of social security numbers, birthdays, and passwords that had been stolen from around the world. The group worked under the slogan, "In fraud we trust." Wow. I wonder if Trump would say there's really some verified people working in Infraud. This seems to be right up his business model. Well, the group was created in 2010 by, and excuse me, but I took very little Russian. It was created in 2010 by Svyatoslav Bondarenko. Bondarenko, a 34-year-old Ukrainian, according to the indictment. In launching it, the indictment alleges he referred to the online forum as a comfortable and safe place to bring together professional people who are carding and hacking and making that become a lifestyle. Wow. He created a hierarchy within the organization and vetted proposed advertising on the site for stolen wares. He also banned members from buying or selling stolen devices or other items that belong to Russian victims. Oh, yeah, you don't poop where you eat, okay? Come on. You don't do it. Everybody knows that. I mean, we're not just rats. We're sophisticated rats. In addition to facilitating the sale of stolen information, the network also provided an escrow account people could use to launder their proceeds using digital currencies, including Bitcoin, Liberty Reserve, Perfect Money, and Web Money. That service was run by Sergey Medvedev, a co-founder of the Infraud site, according to the indictment. Of the 36 people indicted, Department of Justice officials said that 13 have been arrested in the U.S., Australia, the UK, France, Italy, Kosovo, and Serbia. They face charges that include identity theft, bank fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. The other defendants remain at large, and the investigation is still ongoing, Deputy Assistant General David Rybicki told reporters on a conference call. Today marks a significant step in the battle against transnational cybercrime, he said. Yeah, what are you going to do about the Russians hacking into our... they got the banks. They got our voting rolls. And you know those privately held voting machines. Mm-hmm. You know. The indictment said that among the stolen items advertised were... I love this. Was like a country store. You want to come in and you're setting up a little cottage industry outside of that runs out of your garage. Well, here we have all the items. You need shovels, plows. How about 795,000 HSBC bank logins, dozens of PayPal logins and credentials, credit card numbers, and other personal identification. Users could also use the site to advertise malware for sale. In April of 2016, the department alleges Medvedev took over as the admin and owner of the site after he posted on a note online saying that Bondarenko had gone missing. Okay, there it is. Okay, did they? I don't know if this article does not specify whether Bondarenko was one of those arrested, or maybe he met the fate that a lot of Putin assets, active measure assets meet. Convenient heart attacks, convenient polonium poisonings, and the ever-convenient falling out of a 5-store window, moving a piano, but you don't own a piano. Next offering here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. In the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, by the way, is by Natasha Geeling out of Think Progress. Now, New York architect claims that he presented the idea of the solar wall to Trump months before. Trump claimed it as his own. And I got to tell you, this isn't the first time that Trump has stolen somebody's ideas and then sues them. That's the way he works. So at the beginning of June, rumors had started to trickle out from the White House, and Republican leaders that Donald Trump, a self-proclaimed booster of coal, had suggested something strange for his border wall. Solar panels. The guy hates solar panels. But Trump himself publicly touted the idea on June 21st during a rally in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as a way that the proposed wall, which would cost upwards of $18 billion, that's with a B, dollars, could become more economically palatable. Trump said, and I don't have a Trump impersonation down, okay? Excuse me. But Trump did say, we're thinking about building the wall as a solar wall, so it creates energy and pays for itself, Trump said, adding, pretty good imagination, right? Good? My idea. Yeah, you're right. Your idea. Now, one architect is threatening to take Trump to court over that claim, arguing that the president stole his idea for a solar wall and attempted to pass it off as his own. This is very, very disappointing that the person in charge of the entire country, who will expect to uphold the law, would in fact not provide credit to some work that was done for him. Vijay Duggal, an architect based in New York, told Think Progress if he was a gentleman. Well, there's a qualifying statement right there. If he was a gentleman. This is what cracks me up. You know, Greenspan thought, oh, well, we've got all this money. I mean, we're gentlemen. We would never cheat anybody. We're not crooks. By the fact that we are at the station of life that we are, it's impossible for us to be crooks because we have attained this stature because of our higher moral code and construct, and therefore we cannot do wrong. And then he had to admit, oh my God, human nature even touches the higher echelons of society and can make them crooks too. Not realizing that they were probably crooks on the way up. And yeah, but when you're winning, you're not a crook. Okay, so I love this this gentleman's, and I believe he is a gentleman, Vijay Duggal. I like his naivete in the way that the class structure works now. Because money doesn't talk, my man. Money swears. Okay, if he was a gentleman, he would have said that I was the man that had proposed this idea. It's more important for him to claim the idea. Yeah, because he's a narcissist. Duggal said that he first had an idea for a solar border wall when he heard Trump on the campaign trail suggesting the idea of a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. To Duggal, the concept of a border wall seemed like a useless idea, do you think? And so he began to think about ways that the project could provide unique benefits to border communities and the country at large. If we have to have this boondoggle, maybe we can put it to work. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's American ingenuity. I guess. He says that he began studying the potential for a wall along the southern border to provide energy through solar power, and he created a concept for a wall that would best obtain solar energy at the latitude of the U.S.-Mexico border, calculating the precise angle at which the panels would need to be installed, and figuring out how to create a wall that features angled solar panels that would still be impenetrable. Duggal claims that he sent his resulting design to the White House in early February of 2017. That was like a year ago. Just a few weeks after Trump's inauguration. Everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. So on March 6th, Duggal filed a patent seen by Think Progress for his solar border wall concept with the U.S. Patent Office. 3 months later, Duggal was surprised to see a story in Axios claiming that Trump had told congressional leaders that he had personally come up with an idea for putting solar panels on the border wall. Well, you can disclose it as long as you claim that this was my idea, Duggal said. He was very particular that credit be given to him. For months, Duggal wondered how to proceed as Congress shifted its focus to health care. Well, yeah, the border wall. What a cartoon professional wrestling plot line. This is, and people go for it, you know. Of course, on the other hand, I've seen a mustachioed wacko reporter from ABC who got his head smacked in by a professional wrestler when the specific mustachioed so-called reporter from ABC said, well, isn't this all fake? And he got slapped upside the head a couple of times and had his knees buckle. And the professional wrestler did walk away and say, you think that's fake? Okay, well, a border wall with solar panels that's impenetrable. Sounds like science fiction. Well, we've got a Tesla orbiting just beyond Mars, not quite to the asteroid belt, and around the sun, and supposed to do that for a while. I guess we'll be able to have a solar-generated border wall. Finishing up here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, is by Stephen Rosenfeld out of Alternet. Now, the courts have ruled repeatedly against these illegal gerrymanders that Republican-controlled legislators have been drawing before the census and insist that they want to be able to maintain and make even more restrictive to free and open democracy, of course, for the upcoming elections and the upcoming census. So they're just putting their ducks in a row, as you would say. So hyper-partisan Republican legislators in Pennsylvania, and I got to tell you, it's a Republican strategy in all Republican gerrymandered states. They are now, Rosenfeld is using the term a coup, a judicial coup. I might posit that this has been a long running. It's been a slow coup, decades long. And the court's been packed with Federalist Society judges and cronies. And we are now at a precipice, aren't we? So what these hyper-partisan Republican legislators are doing, not only in Pennsylvania, but North Carolina as well, are attempting to, well, in Pennsylvania's case, they want to impeach the state Supreme Court, the 5 Democrats on the state Supreme Court, because the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the Pennsylvania State Supreme Courts that the gerrymanders are illegal and need to be redrawn by this Friday. Rust never sleeps, does it? Okay, well, what they're doing in North Carolina is they're trying to pack elected judges into positions so that the Democratic governor there cannot appoint judicial positions. And so they are now trying to gerrymander judicial districts. Russ never sleeps. All right, let's get to our break, and we'll come back, go through the weather, and finish up at the chef's table. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, if Epicurus had considered film. The coming-of-age convention is a common one for a director who wants to tell an existential story, but Luca Guadagnino's screen adaptation of the 2007 novel, Call Me By Your Name, takes the device to a new level. The story picks up with an American, Elio, son of an antiquities professor, beginning his 17th summer in a villa in the northern Italian countryside of 1983. He spends his time reading, playing the piano, and socializing with similarly aged locals. It's gonna be great. But right about then, Elio's dad announces that a graduate assistant, Oliver, would be joining them for the summer, displeasing Elio, who must now vacate his bedroom for the visitor. Oliver, played by Armie Hammer, is 25, visually stunning, and as smart as he is attractive. Though Elio is dating a local girl and Oliver is cautious for professional reasons and has an interest in women as well, the two begin an intense physical relationship, one we all know has an expiration date. Timothy Chalamet stunningly shepherds the Elio character through the adolescent angst of the summer, not ending actually until the winter holidays. At that point, we get an extended shot of his face with the sound of a crackling fire, which marks the turning of a chapter of life, not merely the end of a movie. Another performance of note is that of Michael Stolberg as Elio's accepting dad, whose confessional monologue near the finale is worth the price of admission. Everything works together here, and it's all beautiful, literally. Beautiful scenery, beautiful food and wine, beautiful bodies, both of the living and the long dead, as in the recovered statues that hold the professors in Oliver's academic interest. Those with such an interest in film are already in awe of Call Me By Your Name, and you will be too. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. From a very young age, we're encouraged to eat fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, many Americans are not getting the message. Dr. Seung-Hee Lee Kwan is with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. She's joining us today to discuss the importance of eating enough fruits and vegetables. Welcome to the show, Seung-Hee.
Thank you for having me.
Seung-Hee, what is the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
The federal guidelines recommend that adults consume at least 1.5 cups to 2 cups of fruit and 2 to 3 cups of vegetables each day. This is for adults who get less than 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Adults who are more physically active need more calories and thus should be eating more fruits and vegetables. 1 cup is about 12 strawberries or 1 large tomato.
How many people consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
We found that very few adults are getting enough fruits and vegetables. Just 12% are eating the recommended amount of fruits, and less than 1 in 10 eat enough vegetables. And consumption is lower among men, young adults, and adults living in poverty.
Why is eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables so important?
Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help with 3 things. 1, it can reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and deaths, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and even obesity. It can also add important nutrients that are commonly missing in Americans' diet. And it can help with weight management if adults consume fruits and vegetables instead of other calorie-dense foods.
How can we meet the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables?
Try to fill half of your plate with fruits or vegetables at each meal or every eating occasion. Making fruits and vegetables the focal point of your meal will help you meet your recommendations. For example, recent studies have shown that adults get most of their fruit during breakfast and snacks. So you can try adding berries to your morning oatmeal or grab a piece of fresh fruit as an afternoon snack. For vegetables, most adults eat them at dinner, so try adding more into your lunch by adding a side salad or packing a snack of baby carrots or grape tomatoes.
Are canned or frozen products just as good as fresh?
All forms of fruits and vegetables count towards meeting the recommendations. For the most health benefits, make sure that the fruits and vegetables you consume have a limited amount of salt, butter, sugar, or creamy sauces. When selecting canned fruits, choose the ones with lowest sugars. And for canned or frozen vegetables, choose those lower in sodium.
Where can listeners get more information about eating a healthy diet?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/nutrition or choosemyplate.gov.
Thanks, Seung-hee. I've been talking today with Seung-hee Lee Kwon about the importance of eating a healthy diet. Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and death and add important nutrients to your diet. Make sure you're eating enough. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Kathleen Dooling for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
It's odd that Washington Republicans are so loudly crowing about their passage of a Trump-McConnell-Ryan tax law. Odd because the people outside of Washington hate that law. Yes, hate. With a public approval rating of only 30%, the GOP's trillion-dollar giveaway to multinational corporations and multimillionaires turns out to be Congress's second most disliked domestic law in the past quarter century. Second only to the multiple attempts by Trump, McConnell, and Ryan last year to take away the health care coverage of 23 million Americans, a move so mingy that 77% of the public opposed it. Why do those doofuses keep trying to shove such wildly unpopular measures down people's throats? Because, as Daily Beast columnist Michael Tomasky succinctly explained, quote, they are serving their mega-rich donors and the most extreme elements of their base. Yes, in today's rigged political system, the special interests of a tiny minority trump the will of the great majority. Since the GOP's tax bill drastically reduced corporate taxes and increased many of ours, a few corporations are trying to dodge public fury by pulling a trickle-down trick on us. They're awarding a tiny portion of their bonanza to workers, not as pay raises, but as one-time, quote, bonus payments. Bank of America, for example, is doling out $145 million in worker bonuses, while pocketing $2.6 billion it will get this year alone from the tax cut. In addition, the tax boondoggle for corporate giants guts our public treasury, so Washington Republicans and their army of corporate lobbyists are now demanding cuts in our Social Security, Medicare, and other safety net programs. This is Jim Hightower saying that is where America's inequality comes from. If the corporate GOP syndicate wonders why they're so despised, there it is.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. The Constitution originally left it up to the state governments to decide who should have the right to vote. In the early years of our nation, the states limited the right to vote to white men who owned property. In 1789, white men who did not own property, members of certain religious groups, freedmen, Native Americans, slaves, and women were not allowed to vote. After the Revolution, an increasing number of people objected to these limits on voting rights. States began to do away with property and religious restrictions. In addition, new states joining the Union placed fewer limitations on suffrage. In the early 1800s, for example, 6 new Western states gave the right to vote to all adult white males. That's all for today's podcast. The show's theme song is Complacent by Cheryl B. Engelhardt. You can find Cheryl online at cbemusic.com. 60-second civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
This is a Radio Labour special report recorded on Wednesday, February 7th, 2018. I'm C. Marie Ainsborough. More than 340 teachers and other education workers are meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco this week at the Third World Women's Conference of Education International. The conference is scheduled to run from February 5th to 7th. EI is the largest global union in the world. It represents some 32 million teachers and education workers in more than 170 countries. It has a particular focus on improving the teaching profession and how teachers are treated. The conference participants represent almost 400 unions and associations. They have been discussing how women can reach the top leadership of their educational organizations despite the many barriers put in their way. One of the speakers at the conference was Haldis Host, a Deputy General Secretary of Education International. Ms. Holst was interviewed by Radio Labour's Marc Belanger during the conference and asked about the barriers women face as they try to become leaders in their organizations.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that there actually are quite a few women who have reached top leadership positions within education trade unions. You know, some of our largest affiliates in the US, in Brazil, in UK, in Sweden, in Israel, and so on, actually have women as leaders, and there are many more. And they're doing great jobs. But still, we see that the number of women doesn't reflect membership. You know, the teaching profession is a feminized profession, so there should be more. And there should be more women on the executives. So it's moving slowly. The barriers, I think they're just the same as everywhere else in society. It's, you know, the stereotyped vision of who can be a leader. What is it to be a leader? What does the work involved? You have women who lack confidence in themselves. You have cultures that aren't female friendly, that, you know, doing a lot of meeting in the evenings and so on, that doesn't really work for women. So it's about breaking down the same barriers that women have to break down everywhere else in society, I think.
What are some of the solutions to the barriers women face that were suggested by the participants at the conference?
Well, we're only halfway through the conference, but we've got an awful lot of positive suggestions and ways forward here. We're talking about working our way through a labyrinth. That is no longer really that women try to reach the top, then they hit a glass ceiling and they don't get through. But it's about seeing your whole pathway to the leadership positions and being able to identify sometimes the very small barriers that may emerge along your way and get through that so you actually reach the top. We've been talking about that women need to crave leadership. They need to claim it, and they need to own the spaces when they get there, when they really have worked their way through the labyrinth. So it's all about supporting each other, becoming aware of the obstacles when you meet them. It's about capacity development, of course. It's about training women on their own, but also training men so they become more aware of how can they support women in making their way through the unions. We need to transform union cultures. Unions do very many places have a masculine culture that they were developed in a day and age where women weren't part of the working force. And some of this, they've sort of inherited over the generations, we can say, and they're still there. They still need to be challenged and they still need to be changed. And I think that it's also about our professional work. It's about education, because we're not just talking about unions. We're talking about educational leadership, and we're talking about how we need to educate the coming generation of boys and girls to be ready to live in a society where men and women, boys and girls, do have the same opportunity and can support each other through it. So there, I think we're at the end, tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have a menu of suggestions of how we can move forward. And of course, the most important thing is that all the participants here will go home with all their experiences, all their good ideas, and start implementing them at home in their own union.
And that's the Radio Labor Report for February 7th, 2018. I'm C. Marie Ainsberg.
Thank you for accompanying us back here to the chef's table. We've cleaned up the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, restored it to its camouflaged luster as maybe a quaint but very eclectic cookbook store with cookbooks from around the world. Well, speaking of which, since we are here at the chef's table, we always begin with a palate cleanser. And that is weather from around the world, and we begin along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America. It is currently 34 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to be a tad warmer today. It looks like we're going to be bumping right up to 70 degrees. And then we're going to plummet right back down to about 38, 36 degrees tonight. That's how people catch pneumonia, folks. I don't know. Stay warm when you need to stay warm, and, layer when you need to layer. Oh, wow. Precipitation is now just inching up incrementally. We have a 10% chance of rain, but we're going to have showers on Sunday. And you can see those weather cells out in the Pacific Ocean moving irrevocably to our coastline and beyond. So dry conditions will continue except for tonight. And when we say dry conditions, it just means it's not, actual big drops of rain falling from the sky. It's quite misty out right now at 83 degrees humidity. And at 34 degrees, there are sheltered areas that are, yes, frozen. Alrighty, winds are out of the east-southeast. And light and variable, and we'll continue to that. Pressure is at 30.34 inches. Visibility is at 8 miles. Okay. Oh, wow. The air quality index is good at 15 parts per million. That's almost tolerable for those of you who have breathing problems. Alrighty then, our weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase, and these people live around the world. London is 45 and mostly cloudy. Paris is 38 and sunny. Rome is 50 and mostly cloudy. Kiev is 30 and cloudy. Kabul is 36 degrees with smoke. Hong Kong is 54 and mostly cloudy. Tokyo is 36 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 72 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 54 and sunny. And New York is 29 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny as can be. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. And these people live around the world. Okay, we're here at the chef's table, and our first offering is by the great Sarah K. Burris out of Raw Story. While Facebook and Twitter are being marched into congressional hearings and investigators are demanding data and records, Tumblr is getting off scot-free. And that's not to malign the Scots by any means. Okay? An expose from BuzzFeed revealed Russian trolls were given free range at Tumblr with hundreds of thousands of interactions on anti-Hillary Clinton, pro-Bernie Sanders memes, stories, and pieces of content. The company, however, has not said a word, they have not produced documents, and they have not been hauled in to testify before the congressional committees. Columbia University Tow Center for Digital Journalism researcher Jonathan Albright found what trolls did on Twitter was similar to Tumblr, with Russian-tied users pretending to be Black American activists calling Clinton a monster while pushing Sanders. They built their accounts by demanding justice for people of color and calling out police violence. The evidence we've collected shows a highly engaged and far-reaching Tumblr propaganda op targeting mostly teenage and 20-something African Americans, Albright explained. This appears to have been part of an ongoing campaign since early 2015. Donald Trump and the Kremlin have argued that the accusations of Russian intervention in the 2016 campaign was nothing more than an excuse for Clinton's loss. However, these Tumblr accounts started along with Clinton and Trump's announcements, providing the alibi is inaccurate. The user names that the Congressional Committee received from Twitter proved to be the same names on Tumblr, and some even had the same avatar and cross-posted their content between the two. Let's see. Most of the accounts are no longer active, but at least two of them are, but they are publishing completely unrelated content. BuzzFeed noted that it is possible they were shut down and then claimed by other users. Their example was don'tshootus.tumblr.com, which now pushes out Palestinian content. When asked for comment, Tumblr never responded to multiple emails, though tracking software indicated the multiple emails were opened more than 290 times, and links referenced were clicked at least 70 times. Well, that's puts you out there into growing exponentially, because that's just the tracking, but not beyond that, obviously. So, okay, Tumblr, we're looking at you. I don't know. I thought Tumblr was just for photographs. Maybe it's more of a community than I suspected.
Je te donne, c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
You know, I always like to finish up with some good news, and this is some great news. This is out of the Agence France-Presse, and it looks like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is lashing out. In fact, there was a bill, and apparently I don't know if it actually passed the Knesset, but to make it illegal for police to even mention any of the charges against Netanyahu. But apparently they are going to charge him with bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust. And Israeli authorities have refused to comment publicly on the reports. And the Attorney General is expected to take weeks or months to decide how to proceed after receiving the recommendations. And it's shocking to discover that the commissioner has repeated the mistaken and ridiculous suggestion that Prime Minister Netanyahu sent private investigators after the police who are investigating him. Well, that was a reference to Netanyahu sending private investigators after the government and police investigators that were going after him. They're investigating Netanyahu over suspicions that he received expensive gifts from wealthy supporters, as well as over allegations that he sought a secret deal for favorable coverage with a newspaper publisher. The 68-year-old premier has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and says he is being targeted by political opponents. Well, of course, and the police, because you're a crook. All right, well, good riddance to him. This brings us to the end of our broadcast period for today, but we will be visiting with you tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, so join us then. Stay tuned to the rest of the day for some great content on Netroots Radio, and we will visit with you tomorrow on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.